Shalom, Israel. My name is Nakai Aman. I'm a representative at True Nation, an Israelite congregation out in Los Angeles, California. We are located here in the Augusta, Georgia area. What we're going to do is do a Black History in the Bible series. We're going to start the series off by going into the fact that the children of Israel are a people of color. So you so-called African Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, you actually are the children of Israel. You are a people of color, and we've been brainwashed and given many different names that actually are not who we say or who the Bible actually says we are. We are actually the children of Israel. And throughout this entire series, we're going to go into that and prove without a shadow of a doubt that we are the children of Israel. We are the people of the book. And we're going to start that by looking at the fact that the children of Israel are a people of color. Now, there's a lot of information here, but what I've done is I've broken this down, hopefully to its simplest form. We're not going to go over every single piece of history, but we are going to look at some historical things and hopefully get some understanding by the end of this video. So let's start with the history from Noah to Moses, because, of course, we all know the story of creation with Adam and Eve, and everyone says we all come from Adam, and that's absolutely correct. But we also have to remember that there was a time where the Most High decided that he was going to flood the entire earth, and that he only saved Noah and his wife and his family. And Noah had 3 sons, according to the Bible, and those 3 sons were the man named Shem, a man named Ham, and a man named Japheth. And you can go back and look in Genesis chapter 6, verse 10, Genesis chapter 7, verse 7, Genesis chapter 9, verse 1, and the whole entire chapter 10 in order to see the fact that when they boarded on that boat, Noah and his wife boarded along with Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. And then in chapter 9, verse 1, it tells you that after the waters had ceased off the earth and they came back on dry land, the Most High told them to replenish the earth. And in chapter 10, you can actually see an entire breakdown of the different nations and how this whole entire earth was repopulated from these 3 men and their wives. For this presentation, however, we are only going to deal with the descendants of Shem and Ham, okay? And in just a few moments, we're going to talk about how the fact that through Shem, you have the people known today as the children of Israel. All right, you can find the Israelite genealogy by looking at Genesis chapter 11, verses 10 through 26, which will give you the breakdown of a man named Shem all the way to Abraham. And then in Genesis chapter 21 and verse 3, you'll see that Abraham had a son named Isaac. In Genesis chapter 25, verses 22 through 26, you'll see that Isaac had a son named Jacob. And then what you can do is read chapters 29 through 35 to see how the man named Jacob, whose name was eventually changed to Israel, had 12 sons. And on this chart right here, I have the names of those 12 sons: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. And through more history, which we won't get into in this specific presentation, but you will see that also counted within those 12 tribes of Israel, you have the 2 grandsons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who are the sons of Joseph. So this is actually how the 12 tribes of Israel, this is their genealogy. They are from the man named Shem, okay? Now, with that being said, let's look at some historical information. Historically, the descendants of Shem and Ham had the same skin color. I'm going to say that again. Historically speaking, descendants that came from Shem and that came from Ham they had the same skin color. Now, this is a quote from the Zondervan Bible Dictionary on page 213. And this is the forefather named Ham. All right, one of the 3 men that survived the flood back in Genesis 6. This is what it says verbatim. It says, Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races. Again, he became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. Again, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. Today, we basically call those folks the Africans. All right, the people that are dwelling on the continent known today as Africa. But again, notice that it says the descendants of Ham were the progenitor of the dark races. All right, but not the Negroes, putting them in a difference. There's a difference there. We have Ham, who's the father of the dark races, but not the Negroes. The Negroes do not come from Ham. I'm going to show you today that the Negroes, so-called Negroes, are actually descendants of Shem. Now, right here, it's just a picture. As you can see, the top left-hand corner of your screen, you have what you would call today your typical so-called African-American family. Look at the skin color. Now, look at the picture of the folks right beside them. Look at the skin color. Look at the one to the right, top right-hand corner there with the Ethiopia sign. All right, look down at the bottom left-hand corner there. All right. You have all these different skin complexions, and what this is actually showing you is actually just the different variations of the skin tones for people that come from Japhet, Shem, and Ham. And you can see in the middle here, so-called North America, that's your rapper named Ice Cube, all right? And then on the right-hand man, this man is from West Africa, all right? And over to your far right-hand lower corner, you see you have more Africans. And again, the thing that they have in common is that they all have dark races. But again, remember, the Zondervan Bible Dictionary has declared that the dark race people on this earth, all right, your so-called Africans, come from Ham, all right? But there's also a set apart people called Negroes that are not descendants of Ham. So keep that in mind. I just want to show you just how our skin colors are very similar, okay? Now, there's also evidence in the scriptures that teach you that the Egyptians, so-called Africans, Hamites, and Israelites were at times mistaken for one another. Again, I repeat, we have evidence that shows that at different times in the scriptures that Hamites were actually mistaken for Israelites, all right? And this is just history. I won't go into it, but if you go into Genesis chapters 38 to 39, you're going to see that Joseph was sold into Egypt. All right? From there, because I'm sure you all are familiar with the story of the deliverance or the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt. All right? And the man that led that charge was Moses. Now, if you go to Exodus chapter 2, verses 15 through 19, and I'll read this. It says, now when Pharaoh heard this, that he had actually just murdered someone, all right? It says, now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now the priests of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water, and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them, and watered their flock. And when they came to Reuel their father, he said, how is it that you have come so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian, okay? An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock. Why would they say that Moses was an Egyptian? Well, because he looked like an Egyptian, all right? A lot of people try to say, oh, he was dressed like him, things of that sort. Well, there may be some truth in that, but also you have to remember he looked just like the Egyptian. He was dark-skinned, just like the Egyptians, and we're going to go into that also in just a few moments. Let's look at another biblical example in the book of Acts. This time, this was in the book of Acts, chapter 21, verses 37 through 39, and this is concerning the Apostle Paul. All right, he was also mistaken for an Egyptian. It says, and I quote, and as Paul was to be led into the council, he said unto the chief captain, may I speak unto thee? Who said, canst thou speak Greek? Art not thou that Egyptian, which before these days made us an uproar, and led us out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers? But Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew of Tarsus, a city of Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto the people. So here, Paul is mistaken for an Egyptian. Now, let's go back to Moses. Let's look at the book of Exodus chapter 4 and verses 6 through 8. It says, and the Lord, or Yahweh, said furthermore unto him, put now thine hand into thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, Behold, his hand was leprous as snow. Leprous as snow. Snow. And he said, put thine hand into thy bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. So here, Moses is getting his direction from the Most High to go and deliver the people out of Israel. And he's actually giving him signs to show to the children of Israel that the Most High was with him. Now, if Moses had white or so-called Caucasian skin, the Bible would not read as this. Look at it again. It says he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, it was leprous as snow. Only a person that has multiple skin complexions will be affected in this manner. Why? Because when he did this, the pigmentation went away. Now here's two pictures of someone where you can see, of course, they are a so-called African American or dark-skinned man. Arms. Look at his arms. So this is basically something that Moses went through here. He put his hand in his bosom and it came back out and it was white. He put it back in and it turned back as his other flesh. Now Moses was white. All right, if he was so-called Caucasian, like they tried to force down our throats that he was, would that really have made a difference? No. All right. Let's look at some more color scriptures in Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verses 5 through 6. It says, I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me, because I am black, because the sun hath looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but mine own vineyard have I not kept. Look at it. It says, I am black. Look, and then it says, look not upon me because I am black, because the sun. Now, people try to say, oh, no, that's not really what that means, blah, blah, blah. Well, what happens when the sun hits on somebody? Their skin changes. It gets darker. All right, so that's why he's saying, I am black, because the sun hath looked upon me. Let's go to Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 8. It says, their visage is blacker than a coal. They are not known in the street. Their skin cleaveth to their bone. It is withered. It has become like a stick. Now, I went ahead and looked up the word, this is your visage there, and it's the Hebrew word 8389 to R. It means form, outline, figure, appearance. Appearance. All right, so their appearance is blacker than a coal. All right, then it says their skin cleaveth to their bones. So we're talking about a physical description here. All right, Lamentations chapter 5 and verse 10. Our skin was black, like an oven, because of the terrible famine. Again, talking about the skin. Job chapter 30 and verse 30. My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burnt with heat. Now here, I'm going to actually read one before I go into my last color scripture. Hebrews chapter 7 and verse 14. It says, for it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah, of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood. This Lord or Master that they're talking about here, springing out of Judah, is Yahushua, or whom the world calls Jesus the Christ. All right, Yahushua. He's the one that came from the tribe of Judah. All right. Now, if you go back and look, all these men that are writing these scriptures, these are all men that are from his lineage. All right. So, of course, he's going to look just like him, and we have evidence of it. All right. We have evidence of how he looked right now in the heavenlies. Revelation chapter 1, verses 13 through 15. And in the midst of the seven candlesticks, one likened to the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girded about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool, not straight and blonde, white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burnt in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. Now, I'm not in no way, shape, or form saying that Yahushua looks like Bob Marley, not at all, all right? But this is a picture that I found online that actually knocks out both of those verses 14 and 15, so that's why I used this. But as you can see, that top portion there, you have someone that has woolly hair. And you see at the bottom there, they have brass. That's what brass looks like. Now, think about it. Brass is already brown. What happens if it burns in the fire? It's going to get even darker, all right? So let's summarize this. Again, this is just a quick breakdown, and we're going to do a couple more of these to really get the full picture, but I wanted to start off with the color, all right? The descendants of Ham and Shem have been mistaken for one another biblically, all right, and historically. Ham is the forefather of the dark races, but not the Negroes, the so-called African American. So-called blacks or African Americans are actually the descendants of Shem, which would mean that we are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There are numerous scriptures showing that the people of the book were and still are today a people of color. And the Messiah himself is described as a man of color. A few final thoughts. Now, saying this, the understanding that the people in the Bible are actually people of color, let me say this. Being a so-called African-American does not exempt you from living righteously, nor does it exempt you from judgment. We're going to get into that in more lessons, all right? However, knowing that your oppressor is not, I repeat, is not the same race as the biblical patriarchs as they have tried to claim through media, magazine, television, and movies will definitely start you on a path to learn even more truth, because the fact of the matter is we have believed this. This is what we've believed the majority of our lives. Easter time, we watch the story of Moses. Moses is a white man. All right? Easter time and, even other times of the year, we watch stories about, Jesus and his passion. He's a white man. All right? We hear, God's chosen people. There's things going on in Israel, the Jewish people, blah, blah, blah. Look at them down there. So-called white man. First Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 48 says, "And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images." I submit to you today that the images that we see are basically nothing but whitewashed images. Historically, the nations have known that the children of Israel were a people of color. But our oppressors, the heathen, they have come and painted Moses and Yahushua and all the 12 tribes of Israel. They have made them out into their image and after their likeness. I submit to you today that we are the children of Israel. We are the people of the book, and they are people of color. Stay tuned for more lessons in regards to Black history in the Bible. And with that, I say shalom.